Okay, bonsoir à tous. How is everyone? Hello. Be sure to say hello if you're watching at the moment. Let me, Is anyone there? Hello. Hello. Hi, Felix. Hi, Pierre. How are you? Are we having a good evening? I'm very well, thank you, Pierre. Thank you. And you as well, Felix. Thank you. Okay. So we'll wait maybe one more minute to see if a few more people come and join our YouTube live this evening. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And if you need help with spelling anything, or if you need help with how to express something in English, then you're more than welcome to ask me. Okay. Hello Paige. Hello Sébastien. How are we all? Bonsoir à tous. Comment allez-vous? J'espère que vous allez bien ce soir. I hope you're very well this evening. I'm very well as well, Sébastien. Thank you very much. Merci. Je vais très bien, merci. Okay, right. Let's get started, and hopefully some more people will join us along the way. So, first of all, bonsoir à tous. Bienvenue à notre YouTube live ce soir. J'espère que vous allez bien. J'espère que vous avez hâte pour notre leçon ce soir. I hope you're looking forward to our lesson. Ce soir, nous allons parler de nos hobbies. Ce que nous aimons faire pendant notre temps libre. So what we like to do in our spare time. We're going to be talking about our hobbies and what we like to do in our spare time, or our free time, we can also say in English. So I'll write that out. Spare time or free time. We can say either. So why is it important to talk about your interests and hobbies? Well, first of all, as per this series, it's a great icebreaker. So when you're meeting someone for the first time and you don't particularly know what to talk about, you can ask people what their hobbies are, what their interests are, and in that way you get to know them a bit better. It's also important to introduce your own hobbies and your own interests. And in that way, you form a connection with the person you're talking to, and perhaps you might even have a hobby in common. Donc, il se peut que vous ayez quelque chose en commun. So it's important that we talk about hobbies and interests so that you can form this connection with other people. So, how do we ask people what their interests and hobbies are? How do we form that question? Bonsoir Neil. Bienvenue. Welcome to our YouTube Live. So my question was, how do we ask people what their hobbies and interests are? Comment est-ce qu'on peut demander à quelqu'un quels sont leurs hobbies, leurs intérêts? Donc, comment est-ce qu'on peut le dire en anglais? Donc, il y a plusieurs façons de le dire, mais est-ce que vous avez des idées de ce qu'on peut dire en anglais? Paige has said, have you a hobby? Not quite. We don't quite say that. Does anyone else have any ideas? Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un d'autre qui a des idées? Ou comment on peut dire ça en anglais? So one way you can ask someone is Do you have any hobbies? Do you have any hobbies? Est-ce que vous avez des hobbies? So we write this as, do you have any hobbies? Okay, have you hobbies? Okay. And Sebastian has said, what is your hobbies? So remember, Sebastian, that hobbies is plural, c'est un nom pluriel. Et on dit, il faut utiliser un verbe qui est au pluriel aussi. Donc, qu'est-ce qu'ils sont, vos hobbies? What are your hobbies? What are your hobbies? Donc, c'est pluriel. C'est to be. Donc, is, c'est singulier. Are, c'est pluriel. Donc, what are your hobbies? Pierre has said, what are your hobbies in your free time? So Pierre, you're mixing some of the questions there. So you can say, what are your hobbies? Or, an alternative way, donc une autre façon de demander à quelqu'un ce qu'ils font pendant, qu'est-ce qu'ils font pendant leur temps libre. On peut dire, what do you do in your free time? What do you do in your free time? There we go. What do you do in your free time? Bonsoir Françoise. Bienvenue à notre YouTube live. Good evening. It's a pleasure to have you here this evening. I hope you're well, and hello to everyone else that's just joined us as well. So as I was saying, you can say, 1, do you have any hobbies? Est-ce que vous avez des hobbies? And what do you do in your free time? Qu'est-ce que vous faites pendant votre temps libre? Hello Josiane. So, how would we respond to this question? How do we respond to this question? So, for example, if someone says to you, what do you like to do in your free time? What are your hobbies? What are your interests? How can we respond? Can anyone give an example? So, I will start by saying, I like reading, or I like to read. So, in French, this would be j'aime bien la lecture, or j'aime bien lire. Okay, so Pierre says, I like to listen to vinyls. Yeah, that's great. Neil has said, I do sports. So we can say I do sport. We can also say I play sport. I'll come on to this a bit later, but in English, as well as in French, we distinguish between doing a sport and playing a sport. So I'll come on to the difference a bit later. Josiane has said, I like rugby. Yes, I also like rugby. Moi aussi, j'aime bien le rugby. Du coup, je joue au rugby depuis 10 ans, 11 ans. So I've played rugby for 10 years, 11 years or so. Okay. Françoise, yes, it's a pleasure to meet you too. Okay. I like yoga. We can just say, I like yoga. But practicing, you've conjugated the verb correctly, so well done. Paige has said, I like read and listen to music. So Paige, when we say we like something, we can either use the infinitive, donc le verbe aux formes infinitives, donc avec to, ou on peut aussi dire avec ing. So I like to read, or I like reading. And so it's the same with music. I like to listen to music, or I like listening to music. Okay? I'll type it out for you. Reading. Ooh. Ooh, I misspelled that, sorry. Like reading, not reading. I like to read. I like to listen to music. I like listening to music. So those are the way we can say it. Okay, Neil also says I play basketball. Yes, I play basketball. I swim. I swim. So to swim in the present tense is I swim. Josiane has said, I like walking in the forest. Yes, great. So Josiane aime bien promener ou marcher dans la forêt. Oui, c'est très bien ça. Another way we can say something a bit more intensely is I'm really passionate about. I am really passionate about. We can also say I really love. Okay, I like diving. Yes, thank you. You can say I like diving as well. We can also say I can't live without. Okay, so I'm really passionate about, c'est-à-dire dire ce qui nous passionne. Donc, ce qui me passionne, c'est la lecture. So, I am really passionate about reading. Ce qui me passionne, c'est le rugby. What I'm really passionate about is rugby. I really love, donc c'est j'adore. J'adore cuisiner. I love cooking. J'adore jouer au rugby. I love playing rugby. Françoise has said, I really love traveling. C'est très bien ça. Very good. Donc, j'adore voyager. C'est très bien ça. I can't live without. This is basically saying, hypothetically, that you would die if you can't do something. So, maybe you might say, I can't live without yoga. Donc, si je fais pas de yoga, je meurs. Donc, je vais mourir. C'est impossible ça. Je ne peux pas vivre sans une activité, quelle qu'elle soit. I like cooking. Yes, great page. Okay. So, moving on slightly, when we're talking about sports, you can either practice a sport, play a sport, or do a sport. So let's say you practice rugby, or you play rugby, or maybe you do athletics. So the difference between the two is very simple. Generally speaking, we use to do with most sports, but we use to play with sports that use a ball. Okay? Donc les sports qui utilisent une balle ou un ballon. Donc le rugby, le football, le tennis, le badminton, quoi d'autre? Le hockey, le volleyball. So all of these sports we use to play. C'est un peu comme en français on dit je joue au rugby. But in English we say I play rugby. Whereas we might say for non-ball sports, so sports that don't use a ball, we say to do. So I do athletics. I do fencing. I do swimming. I do horse riding. Hi Evelyn, no worries. Don't worry about that. Nice that you could come and join us. So the important thing to remember is that when we talk about things or sports that we do or practice, we never, on ne jamais utilise le verbe to make. Okay? Je comprends que c'est difficile pour les Français parce que faire, c'est en anglais on peut utiliser soit to do, soit to make, mais il faut vraiment se souvenir que lorsqu'on parle en anglais, on utilise to do sport et pas to make sport. Okay? Parce que to make, c'est plutôt lorsqu'on crée des choses. When we make things with our hands or art or something like that. It's when you create something. Whereas when you do a sport, it's an activity. You do boxing. Okay, so how often do you do this activity? So combien de fois est-ce que vous faites cette activité, cet hobby, ce loisir? So, for example, I play rugby once a week. Je joue au rugby une fois par semaine. Okay? I play rugby twice a week. Je joue au rugby 2 fois par semaine. So, once, une fois, twice, 2 fois. Et après ça, on utilise une autre construction. Donc, on dit, plutôt, c'est plus littéral, 3 times a week. 4 times a week. Donc, 3 fois, 4 fois par semaine. Okay? So, how often do you play sport? Josiane sees rugby once a week. Very good. Very good. Don't worry, Neil. Very good. I play cards once a week. Oui, donc Evelyne joue aux cartes une fois par semaine. So she plays cards once a week. Okay. How about talking about how long you've done something for? So in French, we might say je joue au rugby depuis 11 ans. Je fais de la natation depuis 5 ans. So in English, we would say, I have been doing, I have been playing. Then you put the sport, so rugby, swimming, for, and then you add the time. So, je joue au rugby depuis 10 ans. I have been playing rugby for 10 years. Okay? Or, je fais de la natation depuis 5 ans. I have been swimming for 5 years. Okay, I listen to it every day. I dive twice a year. I practice yoga once a week too. Françoise, petite chose. Donc, la différence entre practice avec une C et practice avec une S. Donc, avec une C, c'est le nom, donc la pratique. Mais le verbe, c'est avec une S. Donc, pratiquer, c'est un S. I practice, c'est comme ça. Voilà. Okay. Great, Evelyn. Great. During or since. Okay. The difference between during and since. During is more like pendant. So, I have... So, during my free time, I play rugby. Pendant mon temps libre, je joue au rugby. Since is more like depuis. So, since... you can say since the age of 4, donc depuis l'âge de 4 ans. Donc, je joue au rugby depuis l'âge de 4 ans. OK. Josiane, mon fils joue au rugby depuis 20 ans. My son has been playing rugby for 20 years. For 20 years. Okay. Sorry, Marie-Hélène. I was just explaining a bit. My apologies. I'll stick to English. Okay. Right. Okay. So moving on, we're going to talk about books, films, and movies. Well, films and movies, they're synonyms. We use them interchangeably. Movies is more of an American word. Okay. So, what genre do you like in particular? What genre of film do you like in particular? So be careful with that, because in English we use the French word genre, but we emphasize the ending. So we say genre What genre of book, film, movies do you like en particulier, in particular? Okay. So do you like, for example, action? Do you like adventure? Do you like horror? Do you like thrillers? Do you like crime? Do you like romance? And do you like comedy? Donc, I'll type those out for you. Action. Adventure. Horror. Thriller. Crime. Romance. Comedy. I like romance films. Don't forget that it has to be in the plural, so films avec, with an S. Donc, j'aime bien les films romantiques. I like romance films with an S at the end. I like fiction movies. I like to watch romance films. Okay. My favorite is probably psychological thrillers. So Josiane said, I like generally action films. I generally like action films, okay? I generally like action films. That's a question of word order. And how about books? Does anyone have any favorite genres of books? Maybe you like Agatha Christie, who writes crime novels. Yes, Françoise, The Mentalist. Yes, very good. So, yes, do you like... Paige has said they like historic movies. Don't forget, movies is with one O. I know the sounds like a double O, but it's one O. Yes, I like historical movies. Or we can also say period drama or costume drama. So that's when people dress up in the clothes from that era. So this is usually like the Renaissance, la Renaissance, or maybe even World War films. So the films that talk about the Second and First World War. So Neil says that they like Paulo Coelho's books. So what can you give us an example of a book that they've written? Or does anyone else have anything to say about the kinds of books that they enjoy? So you might say, my favorite author is L'Alchimiste. Non-fictional books. Yes, okay. Heroic fantasy books, great. So who is your favorite author, if you have one? About a personal development book. Okay. Talking about minimalism. Pierre likes books that talk about minimalism. Okay. So don't forget, Pierre, it's just talk, not talking in this sentence. Okay. Okay. What about unusual interests or hobbies? Do you do anything that others might consider to be a bit strange, or things that people might consider to be a bit bizarre? Okay. So, for example, do you know someone who likes to do skydiving? So they jump out of planes, okay, with a parachute. Do you know someone who likes to, what's an unusual hobby? Someone who likes WWE, so the wrestling, someone who likes wrestling, okay? So, I would like to try, Felix wants to try skydiving, great. But there's a good phrase there, I would love to try, is the the equivalent of j'aimerais bien essayer de faire quelque chose. Donc, yeah, so you would love to try out something new. Okay, and how would you express how long you've done something for or when you started? When did you start this hobby? So, quand est-ce que vous avez commencé à faire de la natation, de l'athlétisme? When did you start swimming or start athletics? So Evelyn, when you like to adopt cats or dogs, they have been abandoned. They have been abandoned rather than left. Okay. So you can say, I started yoga 2 years ago. Okay? Donc, j'ai commencé à faire du yoga il y a 2 ans. Or, as Neil says, I started to boxing 3 years ago. Donc, j'ai commencé à faire du boxe il y a 3 ans. So, I started either so many years ago, donc il y a 4 ans, 4 years ago, or you can say in a year. So, I started in 2011. Okay? I started in a year. Okay? Or you can say, I have done this since 2011. Donc, je joue, je pratique ou je fais cette activité depuis 2011. So I've been doing this since 2011. I started to dance 1 month ago. So we use the infinitive, Evelyn, so it's I started to dance 1 month ago. Or I started dancing 1 month ago. To dancing isn't correct. Okay. So when we want to express whether we think a hobby is good or bad, we can say, this sounds great, this sounds interesting, this sounds fun. So we can say, interesting, great, fun. Remember that we do not say, it's funny. Funny is when we laugh, okay? So if something makes us laugh, we say funny. If something's enjoyable, we say fun. So it was fun. As Felix was saying, I would love to try. So we can say what you might like to try in the future. I personally would like to try skydiving as well. Or I would like to try yoga. Or I would like to try Pilates. Or I would like to try football. I would like to try cricket being a very traditional English sport. Paige, I read 1 book a week and started 5 years ago. Great, and perfect English. I read 1 book a week and I started 5 years ago. That's amazing. Okay. So, does anyone else have anything else they'd like to say about their hobbies? Anything they'd like to finish with? What do you think of the other people's hobbies? What do you think about my hobbies? Do you think they're interesting? Do you think they're boring? Do you think they're fun? Do you think they're not interesting? What do you think about everyone else's hobbies? Okay. So that brings us nicely to the end of our YouTube Live for this week. I hope you guys have learned something new. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact the Cercle team, be it a grammatical question, be it a vocabulary question, or if you have any feedback on the videos we're doing. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe to the account if you want to see more videos. And don't forget, if you're new here and you haven't been at Cercle before, we're an English language education company. So if you're interested in English lessons, then be sure to look up Cercle des Langues, and a member of our team will be more than happy to introduce you to what we have on offer. So that being said, I will say good night to you all, good evening. Bonne soirée à tous. It's been great to have you all here, and I look forward to seeing you next week at our next YouTube Live. So, à la semaine prochaine. Bonne soirée à tous. Il a été je suis très content de vous avez vu ce soir. So I will bid you guys a lovely evening. So bye bye. Have a nice week. See you soon. Bye.